Just come outside for the night. Take your time, get your life. Jot it down.
Hello, and welcome to Spotlight. I'm Benno.
And I'm Matty.
And you got half an intro, because it's kind of half a show, Matty, as we are here for the other half, as promised, of this week's Spotlight. So it's been a hard period. I'm only fresh back from Belfast. I was fresh off a plane, watching Raw last night. JP and Karen had handled the weekend's wrestling when it came to Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. So hopefully people have checked out that. But yeah, bit of a weird week. It's a weird period, isn't it? You know, there's been a load of, mainly Tony Khan's fault, a load of wrestling over like the Christmas period that we've tried to catch up on. Got a little sneaky World's End review on Weekend Show, and we just thought the only way we're going to get it all in is if we kind of separate it out and do a rare non-live Spotlight, Matty. So what it means is, if me and you disagree tonight, I can just hit the edit button and fix things so that I come out on top and I win this edition of Tribal Combat as you sit there, mate, in your Ulafala.
Well, it's only right, Ben, that the OTC's back with the Ulafala, so I thought I'd put it back around my neck where it belongs instead of over the title. So just to show me support.
In London, shouldn't have brought that down. I feel like that was conspicuous.
That's part of the angle. That's part of the angle. That mate. You didn't really. You're not the true OTC Benno, you know what I mean? You know, the OTG one true grapple, whatever we call it on the Discord. You know, but maybe one day, mate. Maybe one day.
But yeah, we needed to find a way to fit it all in. So hopefully people bear with us as we attempt to return back to normalcy. Everyone knows what everything is. Patreon.com/grapple. We're even a little bit late getting the January schedule out, but I'm sure people have got the grappies to get through. Fucking recorded with Joe. Me, JP, and Joe did the show for Christmas. Gaza in China, that's out there. Ask Grapple's out there as well as.
There's a lot, Ben. There's hours. These aren't just 2-3 hours. These are 5-hour shows. These are, people have got more than enough.
Everyone takes Christmas off.
Off.
Why did we do more at Christmas and then it's January where we're struggling?
Ben, it's time again. It's the 7th of January, a weekend. It's Christmas was like
that's insane,
2 weeks. It's what's going on, mate? It's like we're back though. We'll get back, won't we? This month.
Promises made, promises kept, as we keep saying. We'll keep January under our hats for now, but maybe stay tuned to the end of the show. We'll let you know what's going on. But we will be catching up with the backlog of shows. But yeah, we had to do this, Matty. We had to get in to talk the Raw on Netflix. First off, can I just ask, did you manage to con Steph into buying Netflix for you? If you pay for your own account, who's logging? Have you got? Is it Garrett's? They're very careful on the household situation now, as I found out. They're not as liberal as they used to be with the logins. I used to have all kinds logging into mine. It was kind of a fun family affair.
No, well, Ben, you can tell it's a big deal because, Steph, has always had Netflix since the day I got with her, and I was meant to pay half of the $4.99. She never received half of that, Ben, in the 5 years I've been with her. No, she knows. But then I thought to myself, all this bollocks, can't be having adverts, can't be having nothing. Let's upgrade to the $10.99 account, where I officially sent her half the money now, Ben. So I'm all in, mate. Oh. You can tell it's a big deal. So we've got the $10.99 tier. We didn't go to I think there's one named up £20 where it's like...
What you get with that? You get physical DVDs? Is out in the mail?
It's basically no ads. You know what I mean? Not that, when you're watching it and these pop-ups come up, Ben, don't they? Or like you're watching a movie and you get a 30 cent. I can't be dealing with it. And you're the one who's sparked me with all that, Ben, with the, gladfully acknowledging in the fact of the YouTube premium, mate. I can never go back to that. So you've started me on any platform where I can't have adverts, mate, to just burn me out. Although we had the conversation about adverts about in wrestling, the last pay-per-view or the last Saturday night main event that we covered. So, but yeah, I can't take like just random shit like this. So yeah, we're on the $10.99 tier to answer your question long-windedly there.
I'm on the cheapo tier. I've gone the $4.99. I got it literally just. I haven't had Netflix in 3 years. Like, how's that? My old Netflix.
That shocks me, that, Ben.
I'm more annoyed. My login with all my films and all my watch history, that gone forever. Can't log in, doesn't exist anymore. The account. I don't know why it doesn't exist anymore. I assume it's some GDPR thing or something like that, but it's gone. So I signed up for a new one, and you'll love this, Matty. And this will send us hot into our Raw review from Netflix, which is why we're here. If you're looking for any news or on top stuff, me and JP will catch up with all that on the weekend show, and hopefully we'll be up to date by then. But I've been in Belfast obviously over New Year. That's why I wasn't able to do the show with JP and Karen and make the times work. I got a flight home from Belfast Yeah, literally last night.
Yeah.
Feels like it was 6 years ago. Snow delay. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous out where we live, isn't it? Like snow delays, all kinds. My plane got delayed a couple of hours. I think I spent more on Ubers than I actually spent on my flight home to the airport in Belfast and from the airport in Liverpool. Last night, Matty, you'd be proud of me. I was in the back of an Uber coming home from Liverpool airport. It was 12:30. It said on the app I was going to arrive back at home at 1:55. I was quickly signing up to Netflix, getting myself sorted, ready for Raw. Coming home, I hadn't really considered how fucking bad the snow is near here.
Yeah.
We were coming down, Park Road by giving too much geography away, near where we both live.
Yeah.
My taxi was literally swerving in the road. He couldn't keep straight. It was so icy. He was going all over. I'm in the back trying to get like this login sorted. My arrival time went from 1:55 to like 1:10. I was starting to panic. I was like, I'm gonna have to, while I'm scared for my life in the back of this cab, hear the intro to Raw on Netflix and maybe get a little bit of it in there. He couldn't drive down my road because it was too steep. So then I'm walking in the snow at a couple of minutes past 1 trying to get back. Finally get into my house. Found out while I've been out away for 2 weeks, my freezer is broken while I was away. All my food is ruined. I had plans, Matty, to get some. I thought maybe I'll even get a takeaway. Couldn't get a takeaway, obviously, because of the weather. You wouldn't, even if it was possible. I'm not going to make a delivery man come out in the snow. Managed to get it all on. I had like a packet of crisps and a chocolate bar somewhere in the cupboard. So I didn't starve, mate. They were in the cupboard, not the fridge. So they survived.
That's a good start,
And got myself sat down for Raw at 1:10, all because I knew I was going to be recording this with you today.
That's dedication, my friend. That's like more dedication than I done with me booking me morning off work, Ben. That's some.
Oh, you took time off work? Yeah, throw that in there.
I did.
All to say, like I say, I'll let you lead us off, because I imagine as I was sitting in the back of the Uber listening to Triple H cut a promo, I imagine there were. I'm sure he was pulled, purposely on that stage. Probably didn't want to be out there. Probably just wanted to stay at home and have a quiet life before he went out there and cut that speech. I imagine you were at home, sat with a tear on your eye as Raw on Netflix kicked off last night.
I was, Ben, but I think overall, though, as it started and as the show went on, like overall, I am positive and I am happy. And I've seen a few comments today in some circles that is making me obviously always wanted to do this and record with you, Ben, but I've been looking forward to recording because overall I am positive, as I say. But
you want to just ring Gareth, mate? You can. Got his number.
But at the same time, it's not without faults, of course, throughout the whole night, and some major faults that I'm really, really angry with. So it's going to be a mixed bag. But overall, Ben, I am positive, and I don't see the overall kerfuffle that I've heard today of like it being this big negative whirlwind that we had last night. Like,
oh, good, because I will. But like, let's see.
Here we go.
Let's start somewhere we agree. What did you think of the setup? What did you think of the stream? The quality of it looked great. It felt like Brilliant. It was UFC's production stuff, like the side of TKO that used to do that, and you could tell that from all the fucking celebrity cameos. It felt like you were a hair's breadth away from wheeling out Donald Trump between a Saudi advert and shilling Hulk Hogan's racist beer. But we'll get there with those things.
That's some of the negatives.
There's pretty fucking big negatives out there. But the production of it, I will say, while we're talking the show, did look great. A couple of sound issues through the night,
of course.
But like, I like the ring. I even don't hate like having the adverts like on the canvas and stuff like that. I thought it looked great. The crowd as well, with like the weird red lights that were between seats, and it was when it wasn't bell to bell wrestling happening, it was a really good crowd, a loud crowd that were obviously massively into the song and dance of Triple H's big intro and all of that stuff. Like production wise, with some snafus, I think it looked good, and it's right there, pride of place on the Netflix homepage for me once I logged in. There's a lot of that as you kind of scroll through like your watch list, or you're just looking for a new TV series to watch, and it'll just have random like Judgment Day or like some random Backlash or something like that, and of
course
between like episodes of like The Office and Friends or whatever else is on there as well. But you couldn't miss it on Netflix, and they made that like it was the big splash page, wasn't it, as you went in? I thought production wise it was we can probably agree there.
Yeah, 100%, Ben. It looked great. Like, and even throughout the night, all the shots, like the drone stuff, I liked. You know, I
I like
think
him doing that. Yeah.
yeah, it was, and like you're seeing the matches above the ring on like the screens and stuff like that, and maybe because it was the dome, like when we get, because I was thinking this, maybe when we get to more normal arenas, how are they gonna? Obviously, it'll be similar, of course, but they won't have that dome effect for the first show, so they're going to have to pad it out to make it look similar, maybe across them arenas. But overall, mate, yeah, it looked the part. It really did. And as you say, a few sound issues throughout the night, but you know what can you do, Ben? You know, it's but overall, it was, as I say, just being on Netflix, Benno. We spent weeks and we've heard about it. We've talked about it, of it being this big, you know, shift in like eyes going on it, and it's right though, Ben. It is a general like massive thing, and it hit me watching it. It's just yeah, but I've had so many like old fans or me mates like, oh, it just, but the fact it's on Netflix, been randomly saying I've been watching all the old Royal Rumbles and WrestleManias, and I'm going to check it out now. So from that side of it, it's been amazing. And as you say, just seeing it on that homepage, as you say, in between fucking, as you say, The Office, Seinfeld, WWE, like it's just crazy to see the accessibility of it. And it works great. I've never put the network down, but even just putting it on, press and play, it's just easy to navigate as well. So it's a tick in the box for all that for me, mate. It's
You're going to get that in The Office. It's going to be the random ones going, have you seen the WWE is on Netflix? And you'll have to be there. Yeah, obviously. Like, look at me. Of course I know. But you have to be polite and you have to nod.
Of course.
Yeah, but maybe I'll watch some of that. Sounds good. But it'll be to be seen. Obviously, no numbers out there at the minute. And, you know, what those numbers and the context behind them is going to be obviously a conversation I imagine we'll have on Weekend Show. But yeah, they started off with, like I said, mentioned there, the Triple H cold open with all of the old footage and all the stuff like that. It was well done. Obviously, it put it up on the other Twitter early in the day. You know, a bit corporate. You know, corporate synergy. You know, thanking the Netflix overlords. There was a lot of that. All over the show that I don't imagine most other sports would probably do. And that was all well and good, mate. And it was like, you know, Triple H is done. So, you know, let's get the show on the road. Let's get to one of the big appearances, or like, you know, the big first segment. It leaked through the day that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was going to be properly opening up the show. And we did not get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, unfortunately. We just got Dwayne Johnson, who came out in one of the most inexplicably bad, I'll start hot, Matty,
horrific
segments of the year. Oh, fucking hell, we agree. Jesus Christ, I wasn't expecting that. Like, no, well, maybe I should. Like, unbelievable. Like, he came out and it was like he didn't realise he was on TV. He didn't realise this was an episode of Monday Night Raw. This was like the Dwayne that you get at a fucking presser, or the Dwayne you get at like some kind, literally like a media event, or like
a podcast,
kind of a
something
podcast.
Like that. Yeah.
It was, and obviously we got a little bit of that, didn't we? When at the Hall of Fame, when it was like on the weekend of WrestleMania, and obviously the whole belt thing happened there, but there was a little bit of that there. Gotta start there, mate. Start hot. It was absolutely unbelievable that he was out there. I've literally got a text from Joe I've just gotten that I haven't even answered, going, what the fuck is going on with The Rock? Did they just kill the biggest program they've got in the Rock and Cody Rhodes? Not just that, we're going to get to the opener match as well, the Roman Reigns program as well. It didn't get killed quite as hard, but I have never seen a bit of like just bad business from it's coming from, you know, Dwayne Johnson, who you would think had better instincts. You would think is someone who would have learned from last year. We did the Grappies and Crappies. Or one of our, well, at least for me, worst segments of the year was, you know, the whole debacle with Cody Rhodes last year that they put right. It was almost like they literally learnt no lesson. He's out there putting over Netflix, grinning and smiling. Shouts out Cody Rhodes in the crowd. I can't even get started on why is Cody Rhodes in the fucking crowd? Like, why is he just randomly hanging out there?
I did laugh at that, but I agree, Benno, but I did laugh.
It wasn't even like there was a purpose, because he came out later on, like, to run off Kevin Owens later in the night. Made absolutely no sense why he was even there. And he's out there, like, making references to Mama Rhodes, and they're both having a little cheeky grin and a laugh about it. Awful. Completely breaking kayfabe, talking about how, you know, we got bloody wars and maybe we'll have one in us, but, you know, you carried this place, whether you agree or not, for the last year or so. A nice one, Cody. Obviously, on top of that, he cuts, you know, the promo on Instagram and puts a video up of him and Cody. You know, I had to double check that it was real. The two of them knocking back the vodka, like in front of the bus, like right in front of like literally the great. And you had it on your grappies. The best segment WWE did last year for me was well, at least it was one of them. Cody and Rock going back and forth. And like I kept thinking through the night, and this is why I thought you might even defend it. Oh, you know, maybe this is all like a long game. Maybe he's just pretending to be like a John Cena-esque, like worst babyface corporate kiss-ass type that you've ever seen on screen. And it's going to turn out, and it wouldn't be great, to be honest, that he's going to beat the shit out of Cody again at the end of the night and get some heat back for this program or something. Instead, he looked fucking stupid. Like, I think Cody looked even stupider. I'm going to be on your team tonight, Matty. I'm mad at Cody almost than Rock for going along with it. For being willing to stand there and be little brothered, to be fucking patted on the head and given that little cheeky hug on the outside and having no pushback to it and being willing to be filmed backstage with that Instagram segment and to be willing to kill what was a big money program. What happened to the little fucking thing that he put in Cody's hand? What happened to like the seeds of like this hot story that they planned? I mean, very clear Dwayne's not doing WrestleMania.
He's not doing it, no.
And he made sure you were absolutely aware of whatever it is. I'm glad. It sounds like you're going to agree, Matty, because I thought this was absolutely fucking appalling.
The worst, Ben, and I know Triple H, and deservedly so in some quarters, gets like the fucking pelters for like opening up, but at least he is the figurehead every week there, he's Benny, and at least he's there for the wrestling. And I get, like we've said as well, over time, and I've heard other people say it, I get why Triple H is all over these shows, because they want footage of a new figurehead instead of Vince. So they want this footage of someone who's leading the way. So in a way, I don't mind that with Triple H, even though it is become a running joke. He opens up everything, but I get why he's doing that. So I get he opened the show. That's only fitting for me. But then when The Rock comes out and does basically the same, but worse, as in kissing ass to the executives and everything else, it was awful. That's almost like political, that like, all right, Triple H, you've had your little say. I'm going to be even more over the top and kiss more ass. But the worst thing is, like you've said, he killed everything. It was because I couldn't believe it. And when I was watching, I was like, what's going on here? Surely, like, Cody he's got to steer him out, or they do something. They're having a big laughing joke about it. It was, as you say, Benno, The Rock's embarrassing for doing it, but Cody deserves a lot of shit for just going along with it. And I know he's probably powerless in a way, but fucking hell, you have a word and go, are we really going to do this? It was so bad. It just killed everything off. And you're right, you're not going to get him at WrestleMania. You're probably not going to get him at anything this year by the looks of it. But this is all for the fact, and we said it, like you said there, last year, all right, it was bad at the start, but they rectified it, and The Rock lent into being what he is at heart, a wrestler, and he ended up being great. He's got no second chance for me. He can't do it again this year. If he fancies working WrestleMania a month out, Triple H better stand up and go, no, you've had your chance. Fuck off, mate, because there's no chance we can change all this around again. It was awful, Benno, and I hope this isn't just a political play that he's doing, that he might fancy doing it, because are you saying a month out he might? And I know his schedule with Moana 2 reshoots has been getting leaked out there, but are you telling me if he doesn't fancy it a month out, that he won't try and get back involved again? Come on, what the fuck is it?
They've they've just put a pile of money down and lit it on fire, like, as far as I'm concerned, for that feud. And they probably, wouldn't it be the most Dwayne thing in the world to see? Because I honestly think there's been a lot of negative feedback to this Raw, and not just from, our Discord and people who aren't wired to love WWE. I think a lot of, like, the hardcore WWE fans weren't happy with this Raw. I've seen a lot of comments that it wasn't maybe representative of what has made, in WWE fans' eyes, Raw a better show, over the last. But
I get that. Sorry to jump in, Ben. But I get that though, because I get that. It's just, and don't get me wrong. But I hate it. Go on. Sorry, I'll keep it on.
That's like a set of that. But I'll let you go. But I don't think that's even the reason. I think the reason a lot of the Died in the Wool WWE fans, and the reason this is getting, this show's getting pelted on Cage Match, this pace of the show is getting pelted everywhere. It's because of the bad feeling, though, that I think the night kicked off with this. This was a big night that they built up massively as a night of celebration and a night of, this is the new WWE. It's not the Paul Levesque era anymore. It's the Netflix era, all of that stuff. But I think people bought into that it was going to be new. And the thing, I'll back you up, Matty. I'm not someone who thinks WWE hasn't got better. How much better it's got is where we're probably going to disagree. But yeah. It has. And the reason it's gotten better is because Triple H in his booking does care about his main characters and does care about, fan engagement and fan
Chaos.
satisfaction. The reason there's so much of you fuckers is because you're all, as we often say, you are being super served by the current WWE booking. You're rewarded for investing in these big characters, whether it's, the Judgment Day nonsense that maybe I don't like, but, people are gigantically invested in, whether it's Jey Uso and, and his run, people are gigantically invested in it. WWE has been a place where they've managed, at least over the last year or so, to get away from the bad old days of, you're invested in a character, you're invested in a story, or it can be pulled away from you at a moment's notice. WWE would often punish you for being invested in a lot of these stories. And for the people, and it might not describe a lot of Grapple listeners, because a lot of Grapple listeners, I would imagine, aren't invested in this stuff. For the people like yourself, though, Matty, who are invested in this stuff, I think that's been the key to the success in this period. They've been making you guys happy and pleasing you in ways that haven't been done in years in WWE. And this just runs so counter to that. Like, it's the trust element of it, isn't it? Just from a booking point of view, that, like, a story that everyone was invested in, from the most jaded person to the most invested WWE fan in Cody and The Rock, can just be like, well, fuck it, we're going to hand wave it. And what you actually believed in this feud, it wasn't real anyway, really the mates anyway, go buy The Rock's tequila. Oh, by the way, he's going to be on NXT. Like, it was just, like, I think that is the thing that's led to all of the bad feeling. I think that is a gigantic red flag and reminder of whether it is like the political power of Dwayne or the maneuverings backstage, but it really is there were real life reminders of the past on this show that I definitely won't avoid talking about. But I think as a storyline point of view, I think that was a reminder of the past, of the way WWE has operated for a while.
And I think it's more 75-25, Ben, for me, because like you're saying, it started off like that, like you've just said, because it was one of the first things you seen. It's like fucking hell. And I can't deny, like I've said, I was horrified by it. Like, it was so bad. But then it did, like everything else, Ben, was what you've been watching. You did build up to a tribal combat. You blew that off. You blew off Rhea and Liv Morgan. You're blowing off, or like we might disagree on the finish of Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, but that's a fresh match that you hadn't seen. That's current. The main event is current that you hadn't seen. So it's only The Rock, really, and it's because it's such a big one that they were planning on a WrestleMania main event. Yet that's why it's stuck in people's minds. But then at the same time, like, you've got to not expect the Rock thing, but like, I half expected it to be presented like the way it was. I get with all the legends coming back, and don't get me wrong, it tiptoed into the Vince era, where he lent on Hogan. Undertaker didn't overstay his welcome, to be fair to him. It was just a little cameo. Do you know what I mean? But it was tiptoeing in with Hogan. They relied too much. But once again, I think, well, all right, it's the first show on Netflix. They want to do stuff like that. So I expected it in certain ways. Like, next week, you're going to get back to your regular Raw. You're going to get back, because the card they've announced, you're getting back to your women's IC title. You're getting back to your Priest and Balor Judgment Day. You're getting your Sheamus Ludwig Kaiser. So I get that. So I half expected it to be like this. I'm not saying I liked it or agreed with it, per se, but I just knew it was coming like that. But it is, I agree that The Rock set the tone for the night that most people, and rightfully so, because it was that gigantically horrifying, didn't come back from. So I'm a bit, I'm torn in a way as well, Ben.
I mean, for me, it's like, I think what's gotten them to this point and kind of revitalized kind of the interest from their fans, and I count you in it, is the current, like, I think a big thing of this era has been the current guys are the guys. Like, the guys who you're watching on TV every week. Like, even, is it daft to say Cody Rhodes should have opened the show? Roman Reigns should have opened the show? I know it's The Rock, but like, he's kind of your main, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are your main characters, are your current day stars. Yeah. Even just giving Cody an entrance before Rock came out, I think would have alleviated some of the way. It was the optics of this that was so bad. I think it summed up, because I think I do disagree with it on the overall tone of the show. I just think percentage-wise, as far as what was the current stuff, or at least stuff going forwards on the show, I think it was a pretty low percentage for such a short window show, and it did lean into the old, nostalgia, 27th anniversary of Raw type shows. It felt like one of those in a lot of ways, and I think that was summed up by, let's say, Rock patting Cody on the head and treating him like a little brother and putting him over, brother, in a way that was not putting him over, in a way that was making him seem lesser than. And I think that was the feeling of the show that they've actually gotten away from. They've gotten away from the Attitude Era and the old stars being the real stars.
It's his fault.
And this, absolutely. And this show felt like the Attitude Era and the old stars were the real stars. You know, you list off people here. There's obviously the Rock segment, John Cena segment in there. Yes,
Well,
they
Cena,
kept
Ben.
brief. Yes, they kept Undertaker brief, but there was a lot of it, and a lot of current day stars sat in the front row, sat in the crowd, up in the box, doing little Netflix backstage promos. Like the balance was massively off for the show. I'm not sure that's debatable.
But once again, Ben, it's to be expected to this as well. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying. Maybe Cody.
Why is it to be expected?
Because they always do that with on a new network, on a new streaming device. The first show, you're gonna put your big.
They were in WWE.
No, but
they are in the WWE. They always did, do they?
No, and I said they tiptoed in it. Hogan was the one that overstepped it. If Hogan wasn't on it, I would have been fine with it. That was the one that overstepped the mark for me. As I say, Undertaker didn't say a word. He had a brief camera. Oh, remember the Undertaker? He was next to Rhea Ripley. That's fine. Cena, I can accept as well, because he's in the current storyline for the next year. I can get that. That's fine. And that's me coming across as never, ever been a John Cena guy. Thought he was great on this. Thought he played into what it is going forward.
I mean, he was very Rock too, with like the Netflix nods and the very corporate.
He was, but at least he brought it back round.
Overlords.
At least he brought it back round to fitting in with the storylines, which why we all commended The Rock last year when he wasn't just this coming out doing his catchphrases, thanking every executive. He actually lent into the storylines and created a character week to week. Cena's going to do that once again, to be expected. A little nod, yeah, fair play. But I will agree on the fact of like your WWE champion, and I'm not no Cody fan by any means. Should have had a bit more of a spotlight shone on him, Ben. That was bad. If you're looking at it from what you said, that point of view, that is shocking. But the others, I'm fine with that. I am, because once again, it is to be expected, though, Benno. And I said to you, I
don't think that's an answer, though, is it? It's to be expected.
But it is, though. But what do people? No, that's not expecting better, because that's what I'm saying. If you didn't go in, if Raw, if they didn't do that. Like, what else was you expect? Was you expecting a normal Raw? Then no, you're in cloud cuckoo land. You're going to have to expect this on the first show. It doesn't have to be a
normal Raw, but it could absolutely have been a better Raw than this. They could have spread things out a little bit better as far as.
But that's where I disagree, because the four matches, I think, all delivered currently, because you're blowing stuff off that you've built up and was good. This is where I disagree. The pushback overall for me is wild. I get the Rock stuff. I'm the first in line more than anyone. I hated that more than anybody. But when it comes to everything else, the four big matches on the night delivered what they should have delivered as well, with most of the outcomes as well. And we move on going forward to next week. Seriously, that's how I feel.
I mean, that's another talking point, though, isn't it? I mean, I don't get any of the matches were good, but we can get into the individual matches when we get there. And a lot of it, it was blowing. I suppose it was blowing off stories. So at least you're ticking the box, aren't you? Of the people who were invested in these individual stories, pretty much being blown off to a man in here. So you're getting that if you're an existing audience. I'm not sure to put the best foot forward as far as like creating stuff for down the line, as far as like things to tune into next week, because that's what was very old WWE about this, and it's not that old WWE. It's not that long ago. It's that, you know. Yes, you're blowing all your load, doing all of this retro stuff and bringing all these guys back and making it feel like a big, you know, anniversary nostalgia Raw. But like, there's a lot of Raws to go in the year. As far as reasons to tune in the future, I think there's a line to walk there. And I'm not saying you don't have The Rock on the show at all. I'm not saying you don't even have John Cena on the show at all. I just think they tiptoed over that line, and it was a reminder of a past, I suppose, of the way they used to do things.
Yeah, but then you're saying there's nothing going forward, but then that's what you're saying. So why, but if everyone wasn't featured, then you're going to get everyone featured that should be featured in the next few weeks, aren't you? So it's like you can't win there. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I honestly can't, but like the Rock thing aside, Ben, because I'll agree with anyone all day on that. That was embarrassing. It was horrific. Anything you want to throw at that, it can't be a positive in any way, shape or form. It really can't be. But the rest, as I say, apart from Hogan, everything else was for me fine. It was fine. What you're going to get? You're going to get the Undertaker. You're going to get the legends in the front row. That's it. Hogan was the one, I'll keep repeating, was another horrendous one. It shouldn't have been on there. It shouldn't have been rewritten, whatever reports were led to believe. He shouldn't have been out there. He really shouldn't have been on the show. But then next week going forward, you've got like you're saying there, you've got your current stuff that they're doing. So for me, it's exactly what it should have been, apart from Rock coming out there and destroying plans, just being his fucking divvy self, for better terms, and Hogan being out there. Apart from that, for me, it was what I expected it to be.
I expected it to be better, and I think most people did. We can talk about the excess. We'll get into it as we go into the detail of the show, because that's a big thing for me. It was too much of all of that stuff, too much of the Super Save and the Netflix stuff, too much of the corporate vibe, too much of all that stuff at the expense of the stuff that was current day stuff. But the thing we'll kick off with,
but you getting that next week?
Current day stuff. I mean, sure, but this was the first one and the big one, and the one that's going to have most of the eyeballs on. So.
But then on the other side, if you would have went with Elia Valkyria versus Dakota Kai, if you would have went with Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser, then everyone would be saying, where was The Rock? Where was John Cena on your debut? So you can't win.
They're welcome to be wrong, aren't they? They're welcome to be wrong, those people. It's optics. It's
it'd be getting shitted. It'd be getting shitted on even more, wouldn't it? It'd be getting shitted on even more. If Damian Priest and Finn Balor was the main event instead of Seth Rollins and CM Punk, would people not be moaning, why aren't you putting Seth and CM Punk on your first Netflix? So you can't win. So
you can't win. Can they? They absolutely could have won. They had the goodwill.
So they should have all 8 matches and then be saying it was oversaturated. Do you know what I mean?
No, they should have just delivered a good show with better.
I think it was a good show, apart from 2 segments.
Okay, but like they can win and they could have won, and I think they had a layup to win, because I think as far as like people paying attention to this that wouldn't usually, I think that was way up. And as far as like people who are invested in it and would feel good, like I'll use Hamlet as an example, who I can't imagine anybody who was more excited other than you going into this show, coming out of it disappointed with what they delivered them on the night. Like there's absolutely a far superior version of the show than what they delivered here, but we can get into it as we get into the segments themselves. One thing that did super save you guys, and one thing I didn't even have a gigantic problem with, it, to borrow a quote from you, it was what I expected. It was a 3-star match, but it was, the payoff to the Bloodline story, the Bloodline Civil War, whatever you want to call it, starting. And then that was like, as far as like a structure thing, I've got a lot of problems with the structure of this show. As far as a structure thing, like leading off with Roman Reigns as like at least the first in-ring thing that you got. I would have preferred Cody to have something in-ring in a spotlighted segment, but having Roman in, like, when the eyeballs were there coming off a Rock segment, having Roman straight off after, I think that absolutely made sense. And I'll let you take it off, Matty, because I imagine for the likes of yourself, where you will follow. This was what you wanted out of this. Like this is one where I was kind of watching it going, I don't think this is great. It's an absolutely fine version of what you expect when you get a bloodline Civil War. What do you expect when you get Roman Reigns in there with Solo Sikoa coming off this story that they've been telling? It was on screen exactly what it arguably should have been to super save and please the likes of you. That's one place where, so against type, I'm going to agree with you. So I think we're going to have a little bit of agreement and a little bit of disagreement tonight. But you must have had a gigantic smile on your face watching it.
Oh, I loved it, Ben. Like this was honestly, like, and even, I was the one who said as well, been invested in this for years. Like I didn't like Jay and Roman tribal combat at SummerSlam last year. So I was even a bit like, I thought, well, the story's going to carry through. And I was a bit nervous going in. Genuinely, I'm a bit nervous going to it. And I thought it delivered more than I expected, to be fair. Sure, it was a bit, but even like the slowness of it played in, I thought, to the selling more this time than Jay and Roman, where they weren't just being methodical for the sake of it. I've actually thought, because they start off with the collar and elbow and they go up and around the ring and they were actually doing stuff a bit early, more than the last one. So I did like it for that. And then, as you said, Ben, you're going to get all the shenanigans. That's how these matches are laid out, aren't you? You're going to get your run-ins. We all knew the lads were going to run in. The new Bloodline, we knew Jimmy, Big Jim and Sammy were going to run in as well. And then, Kevin Owens didn't expect. Do you know what I mean? So that was another little curveball in there as well. So, as you say, was what to be expected, but it delivered even more than I thought as well there, Benno, because I was a bit nervous going in. And if we're talking in the story, it was the right winner in the end. He was always going to get back there, and then we can set him up for, I'm thinking it's going to be Phil now for WrestleMania and such. And what happens to your man Solo Sikoa now, Ben? Is he going to be knocked
back down the car where he belongs?
But You go on.
I don't know what your expectations were. If this, I don't want to argue on this one. But if this exceeded your expectations, I don't know what your expectations.
No, it did, Ben. I thought it was. I did think it was better. Like I did. I'll just keep saying I wasn't.
Did you not expect this though? To borrow a phrase from you, like a bit of plot and action, and then a couple of run-ins that we got. The only real surprise was Kevin Owens coming out, which I didn't really think about as a possibility in the story, even though it made sense. Cody coming out and running him off. Like, they didn't really reinvent the wheel with it, did they, really? It was just the basics of what would have worked.
Yeah, but I just mean even Solo, when it was just Solo and Roman in there for the first bit, I thought it just had a bit more oomph to it than the last one. And I know that mightn't be a high bar, but I just thought the work was actually quite good. You're going into the finishing stretch.
What about it was good?
I just thought it was good. I just thought it was good. I just didn't know. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't fucking big elbow strikes off the top of cages and fucking destroyers and that, but I just thought the work was quite good and quite snug and quite built up to the spots that they were doing. Honestly, I thought it was. Honestly, I did. I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, it existed. It was a match. It's one of the whole tribal combat gimmick is literally they're just telling you out loud it's going to be interference here. And like the other problem with it was the people who were running in, obviously with the injuries, you've got a limited roster when you're doing that, especially on like the heel side of it. Thought Jacob looked good. That's a positive I can throw at it. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was fine. I feel like for me, it was probably on like just the expected end of what this match was going to be. I thought you'd say it was on the low end of what this could have been when you pictured this being maybe a WrestleMania main event down the line and had all these big expectations for it. But yeah, it was a fine match that existed, and The Rock came out and gave the fucking necklace back to Roman Reigns, and with no story or emphasis or pageantry, and that's another example of probably going to repeat through the show. Surely you can picture in your mind's eye a better version of that.
Yeah, of course, Ben. Of course, with that. But at least it didn't completely shit on it like it did the Cody thing. You can always just lean back to that regardless that match. You can always go to it because of the family side, you can always just strike up one promo, one jealous thing, one whatever you can. Whereas he completely shit on the Cody thing for me. There's no coming back from that. Even like you said before, where he's pretending to be his mate. No, you can't. It can't be saved. That.
Even that would make Cody look like a fucking geek.
Exactly. Whereas the Roman one, even the look he gave, and then he stood back, and I think Hamlet said earlier on, like he didn't even put the ones up the Rock. But even for me, that's okay, because you can always just lean back into that, just going off the history of the family and stuff. So I wasn't too bothered about that. You could always do that down the line. So, and it was it. But once again, it was I couldn't help but think it's once again the Rock. What he didn't want to be on this show. Then about 3 days earlier, he thought, right, I remember getting crowned the High Chief. Why did he never mention that before? That's just to write himself into this to give Roman that. Do you know what I mean? So I couldn't help after that delivery of the Cody stuff think, fucking hell, you are overshining him a little bit, but it will make sense down the line for a match. So it's conflicting me there, Dwayne.
Did that Vin Diesel fucking weird thing that happened at the award show, like just break his brain or something like that?
It must have, man.
He turned up all insecure and wanted everyone to like him.
Rattled, didn't he? Exactly. But he went the wrong way about it again, though. That's what you said. He's gone.
If he was retiring, I get it. Maybe the news comes out in a couple of days, he's retiring. We're not ever actually doing these matches. It was just, no stakes, stilted, just bad.
But if we're in the story, as I keep saying, if we're talking about what the current product is and what it is, it hit that high note, you end that story. Dare I say, Ben, and this is the first time I'll say it, is this the end of the actual fucking bloodline? Seriously, I don't know what they're going to do. If Roman's going off with Phil, what did he do? I know you can play into Heyman still, so you kind of there. What does Solo do? Do the lads turn on Solo because he's let them down? Fatu and Solo, is that WrestleMania? Is that a WrestleMania match that we're going to build to? Who knows at this point? But I will agree with that, Ben. And I've said this on our shows many, many a time over the last 6 months or so. Triple H has had these WrestleManias planned out, mate. He's had the big matches planned out. This feels to me like a last-minute rewrite. And then some, Ben. He might have these big matches planned. He's still figuring out this undercard as we speak and some of the other big matches, because who the fuck knows what they're going to build to, mate.
Yeah. Well, moving on from there, where do you want to go next? What's your next big point on the show?
Well, we've got to talk main event, haven't we, Ben? Your boy Phil, come on, let's talk about Phil and Seth.
I mean, that summed the show up, didn't it? Like that again. That was on. I think I'll be harsher on that than there was Roman and Solo. Roman Solo was pretty much what I expected, and I didn't expect much. Punk and Seth, in a similar vein, to be honest, the matches had a lot in common in that they were both, at least rumored, maybe just by you, but by others as well, as WrestleMania matches. Punk and Seth was something that it felt like they were going to give legs to Mania that never had legs to get to Mania. So we had it on this big Raw instead. And then they went out there, and I think it kind of summed this show up. It just didn't feel special. There was something lacking. The atmosphere wasn't there, especially when the bell rang. And that was a repeated thing through this night. And again, I'm not someone who's going to have a go at the limited in-ring action, Matty. I think you can space things out across a long period of time and make matches feel important. That doesn't necessarily mean every time having low matches automatically makes them all feel important, but there are some benefits to that. And in a match that had limited wrestling, this to me felt like it was going to be the match that would at least, make everyone go off the air with a better taste in the mouth. Maybe, not save the show, but at least be the thing that could deliver in ring to a higher level than it did. And it didn't feel up to much either. It was, like I say, I guess that'll be the point I'm going to keep repeating. Lacking in energy, lacking in real connection. Didn't feel like the crowd cared outside of the entrances and the finishes. And I know what show am I watching? I'm watching WWE. It is very much the promo company. You're not going to hear that argument necessarily from me. I'm all right with promos as long as they're good and meaningful and productive, which would be my argument against some of the promos on this show. But as a match, absolutely on the low end of what they could have done out there. And it really, to be honest, it just felt to me like and based on his comments at the presser, Punk didn't really want to work with Seth. It was written all over his face. Seth had to put him over because Punk's the better star, and we're done with it. And it just, wasn't the first main event. Again, another, for me, disappointment on the show. That is another of the things I think a lot of people are pointing to as the reason they came out of this debut. Went in very hyped up, came out very disappointed.
So is that what it is then? It's more the disappointment because it wasn't bad, was it?
The biggest.
It wasn't terrible. No. I'm just asking you that. No, I'm not saying I'm not having a go there. I'm just saying, is that what it is? Disappointment because it wasn't terrible though, was it? It wasn't an awful match. It wasn't shocking, was it? It was good. But you expected, but as you say, did you expect CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, who you call Mr.
Didn't expect 5 stars. I expected better than this.
Fair enough then. But it wasn't terrible though, was it?
The deliveries were better. I mean,
it was okay. It was good.
What does that mean?
No, but it was good, really. But that's what I mean. I don't. What you'd expect them 4-2-5, but it was 3-7-5. So it wasn't like you might be disappointed, but it wasn't that far off, was it? Do you know what I mean? I just don't think. Once again, maybe
gigantic show, mate.
Yeah, but it was. But that's what I mean. But it was. Fair enough, it's opinions, and we can't change things. But I thought it was a good main event. I thought it was very good. It might have lacked a bit of intensity because of the way you've built this up as this real fight and this real personal animosity. And I think they started off with that when they started brawling around and got into the crowd. But then it did turn into more of your wrestling match and your finishes and all that, which you can agree or disagree with that. So it lost a bit of intensity for me there. But I thought even like the way the finishes were done, I thought it was a good main event. Genuinely did. Do nothing wrong with it at all. So
maybe for a random Raw 42 weeks into the year that everyone's going to forget about, I just think standards are higher for the show. And of the 4 matches that we had on the show, this was the one that had the highest possible ceiling. Even if we do agree, the ceiling for a Seth Rollins match is pretty low. It just, it added to the feeling of disappointment, and it was kind of, anticlimactic, really. It was just done, and then onto the YouTube show for Punk to, he put Chris Bay over. That's nice, or dedicated as win to him after the show, and that was kind of that, really. Again, shot window time. More, as you've seen from our Discord, the amount of people watching Raw this week that don't usually watch Raw, and I've said this to you, I've agreed with you before, where it sounds like people put it on, it's like, oh fuck, you put the wrong one on here. We're raving about who was again missing from this show, a Gunther match, or one of those great division type guys that would have massively elevated this show. You want people to tune in and see that. You don't want people to tune in and see what we got across the show.
Yeah, I don't know. As I say, I don't know. But if people know, I know you're gonna. I can already hear your pushback here. But if people know going in, you're not going to get your 5-star matches.
Well, then give us a 4-star one.
Then what do they
give us a 3.75 star one even?
Well, I think that was 3.75, Ben. Yeah, come on. I think you're being a bit.
Not even on the WWE scale. It was 3.25. It had a push.
Fair enough. Then we disagree, but I think it's just an easy.
That's the most important thing. But it's still important.
An easy target to say. But if you know going in, you're not going to get the greatest of matches. And don't get me wrong, I agree you might have been disappointed by even that standard. Yeah, I get that, but I think it's an easy thing to throw at it. But that's where we differ. And I'm not, as I say, I said at the start, I'm more positive on this show, but without the big horrific negatives that I've already listed. Everything else for me I enjoyed.
Speaking of horrific negatives, what were they doing wheeling fucking Hulk Hogan out there? We'll agree there.
That was like...
I mean, it was almost cathartic in that, like, following, WWE, and again, this Raw on Netflix, it shouldn't be lost in the conversation. They had their biggest PR day, blitz, positive news covered by BBC and all kinds. And on that same day, they're announcing a Saudi Royal Rumble, which even if, I mean, morally fucking want to just gross and awful, and it's happening in all sports, doesn't make it right, and it's just a horrible thing to kind of live through. Sounds terrible as a show as well, but that's kind of an aside. But they announced that on the day, and the other fucking great news story, I mean, we gave fucking AEW enough pelters for getting into bed with Ric Flair and his energy drink. What are they fucking thinking? Getting into bed with Terry Bollea, like Donald Trump's best mate. Even if you want to put that aside, because this is very much a Donald Trump company, Linda McMahon in the cabinet, Stephanie and Triple H going to all the events, Trump being so tied to UFC and all of that stuff. Even if you're willing to take that out of it, Hulk Hogan is a racist. He admitted it on tape. He's never really apologized. The general mood has gotten worse towards Hogan since he's aligned himself with Trump and that whole administration. But even outside of that, what happened the last time Hulk Hogan turned up on WWE TV? He got booed out of the building. And I was actually, part of me was thinking, having seen those UFC's, appearances of your Kid Rocks and your Trumps and those types of guys, I had a bit of doubt in my brain. I was a little bit like, I imagine he's going to get a negative response. But I was almost sat there, like, fingers crossed, hoping it would happen. And fair play to LA. Like, they had the moments in the night. It wasn't necessarily the matches, but there were other moments. It was a good crowd in various spots. This is where they were a great crowd for me, because they gave that fucking cunt the response that he absolutely deserved, and like he couldn't even hide it. Like,
he seemed shocked, didn't he? Yeah.
He tried to go into like shouting out fucking Andre the Giant and Randy Savage. Those names got booed. That's how much people didn't want to see Hulk Hogan. For a company, again, this is the thing, they've made a lot of headway, at least as far as goodwill goes, and I never thought I'd see the day with WWE where there's a reasonably like groundswell of positive feeling towards WWE. What a fucking own goal that they didn't need to make, Like, they've got so many other negative things going on, like most seriously the Janelle Grant case, also seriously the Saudi Arabia stuff. This was one that they absolutely didn't need to back all the way into. And, like, this is a great example of why, again, there's so much bad feeling coming out of this, because they spent time on this gigantic show to wheel fucking Hulk Hogan out there.
Yeah, that was the lowest point, Ben, of the whole show. This is, like, even worse than The Rock, and that was bad. But, this was, like, as you say, when I heard about that, like, they were signing this deal, like, before the show was in, or was it the day before it got announced, or the morning off? It was like, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what are you doing here? Is it this beer, is it, Ben? Real American fucking beer, or whatever it is. It's just, as you say there, the biggest own goal they just did not need to do. They've got sponsorships coming out of everywhere that they could pick any sponsor than this, couldn't they? Genuinely, they could have to take the pick and to get in bed with this. No. Don't agree.
This is the reminder that, like, they are what they are as a company still. Like, Lee Fitton's name on the end credits. Like, these are all genuine things that are why people came out of this with a, outside of the product itself, just a dirty feeling coming out of the entire thing. And yeah, that, at least that element of it could have been avoided. Thought it was absolutely terrible. Speaking of, the other Trump adjacent people on the show, but speaking of, the other, veteran, you mentioned Undertaker coming out. I'll give you that. I was glad that it was brief. I saw Undertaker's name. That's the other thing. I saw the rumors of Undertaker being on the show, and it was like, that is the opposite of what this needs. That is the opposite of what is worked about Raw over the last while, or the good vibes that WWE has right now. It's not about people like Undertaker. I'm glad he at least got a very short position on the show. It gave Rhea Ripley a little bit something, and that Rhea Ripley the Rhea Ripley match, it wasn't one that I hated. I think Liv Morgan is what she is in ring, and I think Rhea Ripley is what she is in ring, the women's wrestler of the year, according to some of us. But Rhea if you're gonna do, good. this is where I would agree. If you're going to do a bit of business where you're going to finally pay this feud off, it needed either Rhea Ripley to squash it in 5 minutes or to win in definitive fashion. She won in definitive fashion. She celebrated. She's one of the good news stories, I think, for WWE fans that people are clearly invested in behind. She got a big moment on the show. Not necessarily to my taste to do it with Undertaker in the post-match, but she was a main character in WWE you want to do right by on the show, and I think they did do right by her here.
And even in the match itself, Ben, if we're talking about the match and the feud and stuff, there was good little callbacks where they hit the SummerSlam finish and she kicked out, and even Liv got to kick out of her finish. So they treated it with a bit of respect. This match is in like, this is your feud ended, this is your big match. We got the stuff with Dom afterwards as well, where Dom wanted to hug and stuff like that. So we got a little payoff there where she laid Dom out. So it was a good bit of business, as you say. To be expected, though, you know, a new champion, but as you say, with someone that they've really gotten behind over the last couple of years and is organically, genuinely liked by the fans as well, and a new, fresh current star. This was a big tick in the box for the product here, definitely.
And again, the night wasn't enough of that for me. It didn't feel like a substantive enough part of the show, but in isolation, you know, I thought that was a bit of positive business that they had on the show. Speaking of which, I guess we'll do the other cameo. Did you have any elongated thoughts on John Cena coming out? Are you excited for him in the Rumble?
You know what?
That's acceptable use of him, I think. Him doing the Rumble, adding a bit more interest to that in a couple of weeks. I think that's good booking. What comes out of it, we'll see. Whether he is the Cody opponent, which obviously he teased here as well. The corporate stuff I could do without. That was a bit robot John. And again, was a third segment like that on the night, another gigantic negative for me. But the stuff coming out of it, I don't necessarily hate in this whole last year of Cena stuff. If he can get in the fucking training school and maybe learn how to bump and stuff again, we might have something there. But yeah, I expected him to be on the show, and it was less offensive for me than some of the other stuff.
And once again, this is coming from me, who lived through every second of John Cena's career, and probably one of the only wrestlers I genuinely hated at the time. And I know that's a strong word, but it did. I lived through it. I respect the way he's come back again. Like I've been saying, he can't just come back and win matches on TV because he's been battered. I know someone put in our Discord, he won a match in April. I think that was a 6-man tag, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it was a singles match. He's been, like, as he said, over 2,000 days since it. So I'm glad that in a way, he's not just going to come in, start beating all your current stars. He's not going to have to earn it in the Royal Rumble where anyone could win in that type of gimmick match. And that's the perfect way. If he does win, which I expect him to win the Royal Rumble now after Rock, I expect him to win it now, Ben. I think that's how he gets Cody at WrestleMania.
I wanted to go another route, but yeah,
the chamber.
It's Route 1, isn't it? It's Route 1 football, mate. It's the long ball to the match.
It is, but then he has teased that he's going to be in Toronto for the chamber, so maybe it comes down to that as well. But I think it fits him more if he does win the Royal Rumble more than the chamber. You know what I mean? Because but I think that's a good way. And once again, they've carried on the way he's been booked the times he's been on the show, so I'm happy with that. He's fitting into the current story, and whether I want to see him win that title is a different thing. But I suppose if it takes it off Ric Flair, then it's always a good thing, and he does. And I keep saying I'm never been a fan of him, but you know, it would be a good moment, wouldn't it, if he could break that record, the historic moments as well. So yeah, wouldn't be too much against, especially because I'm there, Ben. I'm getting my head around it now, him and Cody, and I'm going to be behind Cody. I don't know who I'm going to be. I'm going to be so torn. I probably won't see it to win. I don't know, Ben. I don't know.
I'm going to back the WWE booking to book Cody. I suppose Kevin Owens has been the strongest example of it, but you know, against a worthy opponent and treat him like he's the world champion. Again, maybe just from doing our Ask Grapple show, you couldn't get it out of me, mate. But SP3 made a pretty convincing case for some of Cody's lesser than usage as world champion.
But Ben, it's either way.
Fruition on this Raw.
If he does win the Royal Rumble, and then you've got, say, like 2 months of that build, I mean, if they don't go in proper story mode and they don't have Cody leaning heel, can you imagine the loving in them promos, how bad them promos could be? If they're just loving each other for 2 months, it could be shocking. They've got to lean into the emotion. Cody's got to be a bit heelish, or it could just be like a proper, like,
might become the Joker, mate. I might turn on Cody with you. Yeah. If it goes that way. Especially after he allowed himself to be fucking...
That's what I mean. Because to be fair, Ben, like Cena, like reasons why I don't like him, because he doesn't get... I know he's not in Hogan and Michael's league political-wise, but he's chewed some people up on the mic, you know what I mean? Like where he doesn't need to be, where he's being a real-life arsehole. Can you imagine him and Cody do that? Has Cody got the bollocks to stand up to the Cena? Like if he's letting him fire shots,
based on this Raw,
that'd be good. That's what I'm saying. If he let them
chewed up like bald men all over. Start with Triple H, you go to Rock, and then you get fucking Cena and his bald patch. Fucking Taker later with his bald bandana. Honestly, bald Hogan. There's a theme to all that, mate. And again, far too.
Well, you'll be back next week, Benno, with your cars if you Sheamus. You're all right.
Gunther or someone could have saved the show. Tell you what didn't save it from an in-ring point of view. And I suppose you're going to tell me the in-ring doesn't matter. The Open was all it was about. I don't expect much from Jey Uso, but I thought him and Drew McIntyre again was on the lower end of what it could have done. For one of the small amounts of matches on this show, I don't think that delivered either. And you know me, I've loved you this last year or so. Again, just felt like it was lacking something, but go on, tell me what was great about it, and I'm sure it starts with Travis Scott, who I'm sure
you've just got to strap him up at this point, Benno. He's the more over guy. No, Jey Uso's the more over guy in the whole.
He's got to wrestle. That's the problem, mate. He's got to have matches, matter. And they're never good.
No, but this match once again mightn't have been a 6-star classic.
It wasn't a 3-star classic.
But no, come on, it wasn't. Come on, I think this is where it's going over the top. This with all the negative. I think it's just easy to throw it all in that this show was a write-off negative-wise. This was far from a bad match, Benno. Fucking hell, mate.
It wasn't a good one, was it?
I thought it was good.
3 stars a bad match.
I thought it was good. Oh, come on. It was more than that. This was good, Benno. The only thing I was shocked about was that Jey Uso won. It doesn't, to be fair, and that's me having a go here in a way, it doesn't fit Drew's like redemption storyline on the bloodline. I thought Drew would win this emphatically. I was shocked that Jey Uso got the win here. But after you get that entrance though, and after you get this run he's on, organically the most over guy in wrestling, I thought to myself, well, no, it's a good job he won, because Ben, I mean, when he come out, mate, I mean, as you say what you want about the match,
yeah, it was
and
5-star.
It was 7-star entrance, mate. This was breaking the scale. This was incredible. This is like, honestly, strap him up, Ben. That's for me. Just get him while you've got him like this. This is it.
I know you're not speaking to the unconverted. I know it's WWE. Like, I was in our Discord kind of going, people are complaining maybe about the lack of matches, and I still think they could have paced things a little bit better.
They could have had one more.
Maybe had one better match in here, throw Gunther in there, find a way to give 15 minutes to something like that. But still, they do need to wrestle at the end of it, and Jey Uso was shown time and time again. He fucking stinks, mate. Like, he just stinks. Like, he's probably generous, to be honest. I think most people out there are going to be giving this 2s and 2.5.
I mean, was it just boring? Because I don't see what was that what it was?
Clunky,
just
boring. Crowd were quiet for the match itself, as hot as they were for the entrance. And again, it's WWE, so I know what to expect. I know what gets over and what doesn't. But yeah, Jey Uso just doesn't seem capable of. I agree with that. He's gotten this over. He's got one of the greatest entrances, WWE have had, to be honest. Like, and again, I loved it. Travis Scott coming out, spoken what seemed to be a blunt. Like, that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I know people can't stand Michael Cole, and that felt like a little bit of a lean of the past as well. The geek announcer dancing on the table and stuff. I wasn't even bothered by that. Like, the whole thing of it, it'd be great to be in the building, wouldn't it?
Get swept
see that
up
big
in
entrance
it,
and see everyone going wild. Even Travis Scott, as many people as he's performed in front of, he felt like he was getting swept up and loved running that. It's just, and then the bell rings, isn't it? And that's why we'll always be mid-card, Jay. Like, that's it.
I don't know. I think I agree he's not the greatest wrestler in the world, but I don't think he's
have a great night either.
I don't think he's as bad as people go on in ring. That's the thing. Not everyone's going to be a Will Ospreay. Not everyone's going to be a Kenny Omega. People need to get that out their heads at the same time.
But there's a big distance between.
No, but it's like films and that. It's like. But it's not
like he's one notch below. He's like 20.
You compare people compare every film like to the Godfather in ways.
You're the one comparing them. No one else is comparing them to Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. Just bog standard wrestlers. Drew McIntyre, compared him to Drew McIntyre.
I think Drew McIntyre is good. Do you know what I mean? I'm high on Drew McIntyre in there. I think he's a very good wrestler. I just don't think he's as bad as the way people go on Jey Uso. He's far from the greatest yet, of course, but he's nowhere near like horrific the way people go on. That's just my views on it.
Has he had a good match in the last year?
He's had loads. He's had loads. But then you're going to say, well, look who's in. He's had good ones with Bron Breakker. He had one with Gunther. This wasn't all. He hasn't had yet, but that's what I mean. These aren't, you're saying he's had good matches. as he had loads of bad matches. All right, the one with Jimmy stands out for me. You get tired with a brush that you can't shake off. He's had good matches with Bron Breakker. The Damian Priest one the month after. Jimmy Uso wasn't bad at all. You've got this going in there, Gunther stuff. There's a lot that he's had, Benno, that on. All right, granted, once again, they're not 6-star matches because not everything can be 6 stars, but they're far from terrible.
Comparison. They could be 3.
But that's the way people go on. But they are.
You're talking to me, not people.
The good matches, the solid matches, they're not bad though. You're saying they're bad. They're not bad.
He's bad. Again, that's
I can't change your mind on that course.
All right, yeah, one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time as well.
And I've just said that, but that's for me. We got to move on from that. All right, he's had that. Yeah, fair play. Let's not just say every performance is like that because it's not. Is what I'm saying. But go on.
I don't think any of them are particularly different. But anyway, again, another one that I think was on the low end of what even outside of you, the most hardcore were kind of expecting for me. So yeah, it was all about the entrance. Maybe that's all people will remember, and maybe you're right on that point. But yeah, what next? That's all the matches done. That was easy.
That was. We've covered all the segments.
On the show, mate? Macaulay Culkin.
We've had all the
Is that the next level, high level thing on the show?
Oh, he got a big pop, didn't he? Let's be honest. Old Kevin McAllister, he got a huge pop. But as I say, Ben, like, I can't sit here and say once again, I don't know if I'm conflicting myself or what's the word I'm looking for, like going against myself. I'm not saying I enjoyed all the celebrity. It's just I expected it, Benno. It didn't affect me in a way because I'd be shocked if they didn't do all this. And granted, was it too many?
That I'm all right with. Like,
yeah, maybe
you want it to feel big time. I think
there was loads of them though, Ben. There was like too many.
Yes, like all of the bald men on the show. Yeah. There was too much of it. That was the problem. But I've got no problem with it being done. It's like the adverts on the canvas. I've got no issue with that. Got no issue with them showing X-Pac in the crowd. Got no issue with them showing Macaulay Culkin in the crowd. Who else was there?
Bill Simmons.
Yes, yeah. Bill Simmons didn't look interested. He was too busy on his phone there in the background. Seth Green. Maybe got a list here.
Ashton Kutcher. O'Shea Jackson. Stephen
Ice
Amell.
Cube's shit fucking son. What, isn't that a coincidence?
O'Shea Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, he managed to get himself in there with his, I'm sure, fantastic podcast. A lot of the WWE, again, do you understand the negative? I think a lot of people have a lot of the current WWE roster being shown in that way, either being in the crowd or being in the box rather than on the show, that they are part and parcel of creating the good feeling of that. I think a lot of people feel they didn't get on Raw this week.
No, as you say, you could have had one more match, but I agree on that. You could have fitted one more match in to get like your Hogan out of there. You could have done that. But once again, you built your 4 big matches. If that's what you're going to go with, once again, you could have one more, but you've built your 4 big matches, which are all current matches, like I keep saying, which are all current big stars. All 8 people in the matches are probably 8 of your top guys and gals that you're going with. So the other ones, so if they weren't on screen though, like, what do you want to do? Did they being showcased in a way? You know, I know they're in the crowd, but what else do you want them to do? Do you want to have them having like a throwaway segment?
Can't put everyone on the show, but they could have.
Of course. Yeah, I'll just say I agree with the Gunther. Like, he's your world champion on Raw. Do you know what I mean? I get that.
He was going to do something with Goldberg. I wasn't asking.
That's Atlanta, isn't it? That's 4 weeks away. They're going to do something with that. And I get that. Once again, if you're looking at it from that point of view, like your 2 world champions, especially your Raw one, Gunther, or your main flagship one in Cody Rhodes, yeah, you can fit them into something better. I agree with you that, Ben. But showcasing your Bron Breakker in the crowd, or your champions, your Shinsuke Nakamura, your Tiffany Stratton, that was fine. You're showcasing them in the front row. These are our stars you're going to tune into. These are our champions. Keep watching. I think, man, that's all.
I'm not sure that's a showcase, but we'll agree to disagree. You say keep watching, though. This isn't a leading question. What did they build like for the? I guess it is a little bit. What did they build for the future? I mean, what was coming up? Say, put yourself in the brain of like somebody who puts an effort.
Put yourself what you said before. I'm going to put myself in exactly what you asked before, so I know what's coming on.
My brother, for example, or one of our mates who were like, "Oh, did you know WWE's on Netflix?" And they go, "You know what? It's right there. It popped up. It said it was live. I don't know why they're up at 1 a.m, but let's pretend they are. Or let's say they're American. I don't know." And they're clicking through and they put it on. Like, what did they give people to go forward and go, okay, this is a reason I'm gonna be tuning in? Like, what would you say they set up for?
Well, they give you the aesthetic from the start. It's something exciting, isn't it? From a crowd
big time.
It did. It did. It's big time in that sense. You're gonna see, like, you might, and once again, Ben, you're gonna see John Cena though every week because it's part of. He's not just getting wheeled out per se. He's part of the actual current story, isn't he, for the next year? So fair play on that regard. You know, who might show up? You're always going to get that, aren't you? Who might show, because they're going to use other legends. They're going to use Goldberg for Atlanta. I can't think who else, but you're going to get other ones coming back. You know, in certain cities and such. You've got this new talent. Oh, Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley, CM Punk's back. You see him, and then like you said,
Dom Rhea. Are we setting that up? Is that what that was?
It could. That could happen. I think that could be over with, Ben. I never did think they could have done that match. Dom was always good.
There's something positive.
He's always. But then it's what you said before. They advertised. All right, you got all this out the way, but then all right, they've advertised next week. All right, they might know that these are the guys featured on Raw every week that you said earlier on. But you're gonna get all that next week. Look at these new stars that you haven't seen before. They're advertising new people for next week. You're getting a debut. Obviously, the casuals don't know Pentagon's debut, but you're getting a mystery opponent next week.
That we all should know, according to Triple H in there.
Yeah, that we all should know. But I think you've seen your established stars on this one, which you're going to see going forward. But then look at all these new guys and gals that you're going to see next week that you haven't seen. I think it's just an easy progression, Benno. And once again, I don't get me wrong, I get the negativity in some circles. Of course I do. I've said it myself. Didn't agree with everything on the show, but I just think the negativity overall's been a bit over-egged. And I just don't get it at all regarding. I guess if you want 5-star matches, I get the
no one does. You got to stop going to that. No one's asking for that. People are asking for.
It sounds like Benno.
But they're asking for better. No one's asking for Kenny Omega. We'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe better. Maybe a better structured show. Maybe a show with a bit more energy. Maybe a show that maybe in some ways reminisced. Reminded of the Raw that's kind of gotten over the last while.
Get that next week
again. The more.
Well, is that not? But you're on though. It's not funny. You got on.
But again, this wasn't a bog standard Raw. This was the debut on Netflix. People.
Yeah, so you got all your big stars. You did. So you didn't get your Dakota Kais. So you can't win there. You can't. So you're saying it's a high expectation. So they give you all the big stars. Once again, if you got Dakota Kai, if you got Sheamus this week, it would be, where's all your big stars on your main debut episode? So you can't win in that regard if you can't see that.
Because there was a way of doing that and doing that well. I think we agreed there was a better version of this show that they could have absolutely done. And that is what people are asking for. I think you're pulling some straw mans there. I don't think that's necessarily what
I'm not. I think, and I've said, Ben, the two horrific things on the show shouldn't have been on there. It really shouldn't have been. Give you Cody, give whoever a bit of a spot instead of them. I agree on that. But then I think because they are so big, and I've said that in a way that it did overall it. But I think if you take them out of it, the rest of the show, if you take the Rock segments and the Hulk Hogan segments, the rest of the show for me was very good. I had a good time. And even, as I say, the cameos, the adverts, how many times he said Raw on Netflix. If you haven't watched WWE before, that's what's to be expected. You must be silly if you didn't expect them to over-egg that, which they're going to, which you would do as a new thing. Imagine if you owned a milk company or a fucking bin company or whatever company, you're going to keep over-egging it. You're going to keep hyping it up, aren't you, on the night? So if you don't expect the WWE to do that, then what are we doing?
I don't think there's a person that you're describing that believes that they didn't expect them to do that. It's how they went about it. But we're repeating ourselves.
Yeah, we are.
Let us know whether you agree with me or you agree with Matty. I'm sure people will be.
Of course, I'll have about 3 people agree with me. That's the way I want it as well.
Again, and I don't think I'm just talking about people in our universe. I think a lot of people who are dying the wall, loving WWE at the minute, were very disappointed with this show. So there we go. Sound off to us if you agree or disagree. Anything more on that show, like outside of like at least it gave us a meme of Rock and Triple H. Triple H trying to shake his hand and Rock.
I've seen that. Yeah.
We'll get some use out of that in future, won't we? The next time fucking Dwayne turns up and wants to do something. And who knows? He said he's on NXT tonight as well. We're recording this on Monday night, so maybe he turned up on NXT, beat up the entire roster and said, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, I'm coming for you. And it's all been
not a chance. He'll do a segment with his daughter and he'll put Trick Williams over. That's what he's going to do.
Are you excited for SmackDown? Oh, I suppose it's just us, isn't it? It's the Europeans who got SmackDown on Netflix. 3 hours. That's going to be hard going. We surprised by the run time. 3 hours, pretty much on the dot. Couple of minutes over. There were rumours they're going to go 3.5. It's going to be a lot week to week, though, isn't it? 3 hour Raws and 3 hour SmackDowns until at least the summer. Too much, I would say. I think a lot of what you like about SmackDown is that it's an easier watch, rather than the 3 hour monster that Raw has become.
Yeah, it is. But as I say, if it was just from now to WrestleMania, I can get it, Benno, because you're in that season of like, you expect more bigger stuff and better stuff and bigger angles to be shot, and especially when they take it on the road to different countries and such like that. So I don't mind that up until WrestleMania, but if it's until SummerSlam, maybe they might overstay the welcome. But as I say, if it's just for the next couple of months or so, whilst you're getting the Netflix off the ground or whilst you're going to these countries, I don't think it's the worst thing to do, because you should, as you say, you should have enough people that get enough time now that we've had the debut episode out the way and we're building up to some big shows. So I think they should just about be okay with it.
Can it not be the Miz and the White Six? How the fuck did he get on telly when with such a limited time?
Current product, Ben. This is the current product you want, mate.
The Miz is not current product.
I'm just saying. No, but the Miz in the final testament
15 years ago
against the Wyatt Six. That's a current feud to building. That's what you said before. So yeah.
Well, so is Adam Copeland and all of the other stuff that's happening in AEW. That's apparently the old man, which it is, and I agree with that. Obviously, yeah, pay-per-views on there as well. You'll be loving your Netflix
of course.
Sub.
$10.99, well spent. A pound dearer than the network, which shouldn't go unsaid, but it's well worth the money, Benno.
It was better than Triller, at least. The amount of times I've had to hit refresh on the Triller stream to get it going a minute past 1. A nice little countdown. It was all very slick on Netflix, so at least there's that. One thing we could agree with, though, on Matty, we did. I obviously, with me missing Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty, and I imagine there'll be even more chatting on the fallout of that with me and JP. Obviously, the Chris Charlton news that came out is something I'm sure me and JP will cover in a lot more detail. If you could look past Chris Charlton, I managed to get you to sit down and watch. And people don't know this about you if they've just heard us for the last hour and 10 minutes. You're a big Ken fan back in the day. And the big story coming out of Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty for me was, one, how poor Wrestle Kingdom was on the day itself, but two, how Wrestle Dynasty felt a little bit more like a big Tokyo Dome New Japan show. And a lot of the reason was Kenny Omega in what I'm calling the main event, but the semi-main event out there with Gabe Kidd. You did manage to fit it in.
I did.
On today.
Yeah, I watched it.
I'll throw it to you. What did you make of big time main event Kenny Omega back in New Japan? Like I say, people might not know about it, but you were a big Kenny Omega booster in 2018.
He was the guy that was the first guy I seen really outside of WWE that I loved, that I genuinely fell in love with. Literally just on the in-ring day with Ken, to be fair, because he's not the greatest on the mic, is he? But as you say, Ben, it's easy just to fall in line with the general consensus, but it is the truth sometimes when that many people say it. In a way, it's like, that's what you want to see Kenny Omega do, isn't it? You want to see him go out there and have good, big-time singles matches. And even when you look at, the injury he had, it looked like he hadn't missed a beat, genuinely. And he's always had that side to him as well, hasn't he, where he can just be one of the best, weapons, garbage wrestlers as well. So that all fit into it. It was just so good to see him back in that setting. That once again, that I hope AEW will lean into that and use him properly and not get involved with more elite bollocks and shit like that. Because you want to see him, as you said, Ben, as I say, everyone says we want to see him at these big time matches in AEW. Let's just go with it. And especially after this injury, and who knows how long we've got him left for. He's just a joy to watch when he's on this form, isn't he? He's one of the best to ever do it in ring. It's so good. It
was, again, you've kind of stolen me thunder a little bit, because that's my biggest take, is that this is the Kenny Omega we've always wanted, I think, in AEW. And your mileage can vary a little bit on, whether you're with, I think me and JP were especially, negative on, even on, maybe more me, on Kenny Omega's AEW title run even. I think that was probably the best example of the Kenny Omega that you kind of wanted in AEW, but was imperfect, I think. And there's high standards when you're Kenny Omega, just like there's high standards when you're on the a gigantic platform like Netflix. You'd expect big stuff from Kenny Omega.
But they're not Kenny Omega, are they? That's the point.
Not talking match quality. Anyway, you expect big stuff from Kenny Omega. You expect him, I think, to be the main character in AEW, and I really hope he is going forward. But so much of his AEW run has been trio stuff, or tagging with Kota Ibushi, or tagging with Chris Jericho. And like I say, when he was the heel champion, there was a comedic element for it that wasn't for me, but was probably for a lot of other people. Even if we just got that, that would be the Kenny Omega I think that we need going forward. When WWE is, the big budget, big business, and it is big business. Like, we didn't even talk about the fucking, the
You sure, Ben?
I think of all time.
Yeah, I think 9 seats didn't sell it out. You know what I mean? We can't officially call it though, can we, Ben? If there's 9 seats available, yeah.
But anyway, metrics are up in every regard. We can agree to disagree on the finer details of that. But when WWE are doing that, and when they are, front of house on Netflix, and it is something that felt as big an event as that night did, AEW has got to be something different, and AEW has got to lean into its own identity. And like, genuinely coming out of this match, my biggest takeaway was just, let's fucking bin this whole Moxley run and just put the belt on Kenny Omega, and we'll do this Kenny Omega, but in AEW, we'll do this. He could be the Roman Reigns of AEW. I'm sure that's music to your ears. Doesn't even have to wrestle that much. I've never been a negative person, at least to an extent. There's a limit on, the limited use of Roman Reigns. It can make you feel like a bigger star. We've seen it with, bad name. Glad he wasn't on Raw. Brock Lesnar, over time, he felt like the bigger star because he wasn't there every week. That could be Kenny Omega. Make his big matches appointment viewing. I think somebody said that on the Discord. Set aside your 8 matches or whatever they are, your big Kenny Omega matches that you want this year. Put them aside and just figure out ways to get to them and make them important and make them feel like this felt, which was appointment viewing and was, not on an AEW show, unfortunately, and it really wasn't an AEW show. Tony Khan could say it was on Twitter, but we all know, from the promotion of it down to the way he was even talked about on Twitter, down to the story that's come out over the last 48 hours, that because of the AEW's agreement with Max, they couldn't outright promote that this was on New Japan World, and they couldn't promote Kenny Omega's big, unbelievable comeback match that we got here. So if they can't promote this one, let's fucking hope they can promote the next one, and let's hope they can do the job that I think Kenny Omega, maybe himself more than New Japan, did in presenting this and presenting himself here. Because I thought the match was absolutely incredible. There are layers to the way Kenny Omega tells his stories in his matches. I won't go through the move by move as Karen and JP aptly kind of covered it on the other version of Spotlight this week. But as far as just like building a match and having it's like you can almost see the working out of there's layers to the story, like the parts that the building the match in ring, and then there's like a whole side quest that happens on the outside, with building to the crazy table.
That's a video game mentality as well. That
it is, but it's layers upon layers building on each other, and bringing Gabe Kidd along as well, who isn't a wrestler.
He was good, Benno. Though no, he was. At the first time I'd seen him, he was. I've got to give him props for that.
I thought you'd like him. Yeah. I did think you'd like him, but I thought it was a great night for him. Absolutely. He rose to the occasion.
He did.
He's for me sometimes, he's not for me other times. The character can be a bit cringe, in my opinion. But as far as putting his whole heart and soul into this match,
he really did.
And keeping up with Kenny, and Kenny laying the match out in a way, and bringing him along in a way, whether you think they missed the peak as far as the finish goes or not. I've seen a bit of back and forth on that, here or hereabouts. He was there with him, and it was they achieved 2 goals. They reminded us that Kenny Omega is on a level above most other wrestlers in the world, and they achieved the goal of, in loss, making Gabe Kidd.
Elevated him a lot.
Shot window right there for Gabe Kidd to make him, make himself known as a name in Kenny Omega's, comeback match. And he did, he delivered himself as well. The emotion of him locking eyes with Tanahashi, and the tears that Tanahashi was crying on the announce table, and all of that stuff added to it as well. It really felt like a coming out. He shouldn't be left out of the conversation. You're absolutely right. No, it felt like a coming out party for Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, as I say, fair as you say, I've seen the promos, which can go over the top a bit, you know what I mean, and you can go, all right, pack it in a bit, but fair time in the ring, honestly, first time I'd seen him properly, and it was all about Ken, don't get me wrong, but he was there, Ben, toe to toe, like you said, didn't miss a beat, didn't miss nothing, and was there for everything and delivered. I didn't know he was that hard hitting in a way as well. I've never seen him fully. He was really good. He's got to get the props there. But as you say, everything echo again what we both said about Ken. And I know he had to, in a way, Ben, he had to, that heel title run, he had to it was like a TV character,
yeah. And that's what he
changed that format that he'd never been on before. But now you just throw that out the window. You don't want that now. You want this as his TV character. We've done all that. As you say, lay it out properly, build up to that title match, let him win the title, just let him have them title defenses and people can do week to week on telly of who gets to fight Kenny Omega, and we can work it out from there. But you're right, and especially as we don't know how long he's got left then after that injury, you know, how long he wants to do it as well. So
and I, you know, the idea that he could come back and in his comeback match do a match to this level, like I think it's a 5-star match, if not a 4.75 star match. We haven't got Grapple anymore, so the app, so I haven't punched in a rating, so I'm not set on that, but I'm somewhere in between the two. Maybe I'll give it a rewatch, but like, yeah, the fact that he could come back and deliver on that level just shows you that Kenny, you know, he's not done yet, and you can build those big matches in AEW. Anything that's left on the table as far as big matches with people in AEW, lay them out now, calendar them out now, because he won't be around forever. But he can obviously still go to this level. Like, I think we've been misquoted before on Kenny. Like, he's one of those wrestlers who's like, he's a fantastic TV wrestler, like as far as matches go, and I want some of them in like in another Kenny Omega AEW run. That's hopefully going to be 5 years. Let's hope for that. Let's hope we're going to get that. Maybe it'll be shorter. Who knows? I think in the past I've maybe poo-pooed him as a television character. That's a different thing, and that goes to kind of what, you know, you say about the heel run. But as far as the in-ring wrestler goes, he can barely be touched. And if AEW was this Kenny Omega that we got in New Japan, mixing it up with the Will Ospreay that we see in AEW all the time, you know, to even a carder, or to even to people lower on the card, you know, your Kyle Fletchers, your Takeshita's, who had an incredible weekend across these shows as well for me as well. That is the AEW that I want to see. You can have your Swerves, you can have your Hangmans, you know, doing a bit of character work on the side. You can have your MJF as well.
Has he wrestled Swerve? He hasn't, has he, Ben? In a big one.
There you go. There's a fresh one.
There's a good one.
There's all of those matches in there. But that is the vision of the AEW when we complain about AEW.
Don't forget Cope.
Actually want.
Even Cope, Ben.
No, I don't want that. Send him to the fucking retirement home with Rock, Triple H, Hogan, and all the rest of the lads. I'll take that. But no, final thought, would you go 5 stars on it, Matty? Was it a 5 for you?
I'm a bit more...
Was it as good as Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre?
You put me on the spot there, Ben. But it's one of them. Come on. I'm a bit more reserved on my star ratings these days. Maybe you guys have rubbed off on me. But I can't go the full 5. I think emotion-wise and everyone getting swept up in his first match back, don't get me wrong, it was an unbelievable match. I think that's what might sway people for 5, and if that's what does it, maybe 4.5 for me. You know what I mean? Obviously, I've seen him have obviously better ones, and that's not discrediting this, but I think the emotion and just the good to see him back is more goodwill for that as well, which is great. And as I say, not putting it down in the slightest, it's really, really good to see him still delivering this type of match after such a bad injury. And as I say, let's just hope he can continue this for as many years, Benno, as he can.
Somebody had to this week, anyway, but I kid. But yeah, I absolutely loved it.
His entrance, though, Ben. No, not into his entrance. No,
I liked it. It's nerdy and it's very Kenny Omega.
It's very Kenny Omega.
The outfit and all of that. He was presented like it was a premium thing.
He takes it serious as well, doesn't he? To be fair, he loves all that. So yeah,
there's a different Kenny when he's in Japan. That
always have a soft spot for him, Ben. You know that personally. I always have a soft spot for him.
But again, Gabe Kidd shouldn't be left out of the conversation. Coming out party for him. Yeah. It has been sullied a little bit by that, I thought, horrendous Chris Charlton commentary performance. I've got no problem with doing an AEW versus New Japan thing. Better commentators could have pulled that off. Yeah. Some people are just made to be translators and fact givers, and you know, I think he's maybe got a little bit comfortable in the role. He's become like he's the veteran in the booth now, isn't he? You know, what's Walker Stewart, 22, something like that. And I think he's kind of maybe got a little bit big for his boots, in my opinion, in that role. And yeah, maybe trying to pop, certain New Japan fans out there, because nobody else is watching. But again, shop window time for New Japan. And yeah, I thought the performance was just so off-putting that even if you think it was a good idea to do what he did, that would be enough to suspend him for a couple of months for me. But I'm sure me and JP will cover that story.
I look forward to listening to you guys.
It was a negative of the match. It did. Yeah. I think it hurt the presentation, but didn't hurt my star rating on it. And yeah, my problems with Chris Charlton's commentary has been detailed in the past, and just good to see a few people joining along. I think as far as opinion goes, who knows what'll happen next? But yeah, outside of that, yeah, as far as that show goes, I would say Takeshi Ishii is also, maybe not for yourself, Matty, but for most out there, if you haven't caught it with the show, absolutely worth seeing. I thought that was a complete barn burner. Again, it was the Ishii of the past and not the Ishii that we've seen in AEW. Dave Finlay and Brody King was very, very good on the day as well. Tanahashi Shibata was a bit of a waste of time, but you give me a show with matches that good, I'll take it. And yeah, as far as Wrestle Kingdom goes, Shota Umino is not a Wrestle Kingdom main eventer. We definitely learned that. I don't think any blame is going to be put on Zack for that day one. Naito, you don't want to see Naito and Hiromu, mate. You'd be laughing your head off. That was Naito shouldn't be. He's got two bad knees and no working eyes.
He was bad last time I seen him, Naito. He shouldn't be. No, even if you didn't agree and wasn't a fan back in the day, he's just harming his legacy in it. What I've seen anyway, you know what I mean. Even if you're a fan or not, you knew he had something about him. When I've seen him recently, it's been bad.
Speaking of them, good to see the Bucks looking a little bit motivated on day two, and obviously their match coming up there. I'm sure me and JP will talk about. I think Yuta Tsuji and Dave Finlay was actually a strong match on day one, didn't it? That's one where I disagree with the Discord a little bit. It went a bit long, but I think they actually got there in the end. It wasn't a bad little match there. Good performance from Yuta Tsuji and a solid one from Dave Finlay, even if his matches aren't always to my taste. But they were kind of the highlights, and there were a fair amount of lowlights, unfortunately, on that day one. Evil. There you go. There's a quick blow of a couple of highlights and lowlights from that to get in as well. There you go. Got you talking New Japan in 2024, Matty.
2025, Ben. I told you. Yeah, the slip's going to be for a few. When you're writing stuff down in work and that, how many times you write 24? It takes a few weeks to get used to 25, mate.
Well, we've gone half an hour longer than we would because that's what we do. But like we said, we've got a lot coming up in January as we do some catch up. We've got a couple of King of the Mountain shows to get to this month that we will. Full schedule will be out tomorrow for patrons. There will be a fun 5-1 in there as well. I think I can reveal and a flashback review as well that I think people are going to be very into. Obviously, Retro will be continuing more information on that as the month goes. Looking forward to year 2 of Retro. And yeah, plenty more Spotlight Live every weekend show as well. But yeah, we got a Dealers Chase in February as well, Matty.
That snuck up. I mean, it just feels like yesterday we were doing Nigel and Randall. I mean, honestly, mate, like when is the time gone? It could happen, then, couldn't it? It could happen.
Oh no, you do Randall too.
Or I might just do Edge Fellow just to piss him off even more. I won't, trust me.
And a little tease as well. There might be one of the other shows from last weekend might be getting covered as far as this month's Patreon shows go. So
for sure, you're gonna get a mixed bag, a mixed broad spectrum of wrestling. But you know what, Ben? It's what we do. And to be fair, one of my New Year's resolutions is I can follow. You know, we go into covering like AEW, and I follow like what's going on. I'm gonna actually get me head back on and actually watch a bit more professional wrestling from around the world this year. That's me, anyway. And so
that's why you liked it so much, mate. You don't watch it normally. Yeah, that's what it is, mate. This is your first Raw in the last.
Who's Ludwig Kaiser? Yeah, who's Chad Gable? Who's Dakota Kai? I don't know.
Now, if you did this to your beloved SmackDown, you'd be singing at a different tune. But anywho, there we go. That's everything going on. But yeah, outside of that, thank you to our Kings of the Mountain and YouTube members for another year and another month. Of
big thank you.
Thank you to our Kings of the Mountain, Conor Laughlin, Eddie Burns, Chris Bass, and Carl Gack. We've got Sam Mulvaney and Ewan Cameron. That might be a tease on what you should probably expect. They've got their shows coming up this month. But outside of that, we'll catch you on weekend show and we'll get back to the normal schedule next week. Yeah. Good night, everyone.
And all is right in the world again, Benno. The OTC is back at the head of the table. I'm a happy man. Happy New Year again, everybody.
Is that me? Oh, good night. Send your hate mail to Matty.